All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the What If Show, and today I'm your host Darius Davis, and today we have a guest on with us, Mrs. Briana Jones. So I want to ask you a few questions and welcome you to the show.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
All right, you're welcome. I want to ask you a few questions. I want to get into a few questions. First one, a little bit about you. For people who really may not know your full story or maybe have seen you, um, how did you get started in sports media?
It's crazy. So, as you mentioned, I'm Briana Jones, from Birmingham, Alabama, the great Magic City.
Oh,
And my parent, I really won't say, I'll say my granddad mainly watched sports every single day. It wasn't just like Saturday with football. I mean, on Monday night, he's watching football. On Tuesday, he's watching highlights. And it just became a thing that I think I was drawn to it because I wanted to be around him. And so while he's watching this, I'm around him and I'm starting to enjoy it too. And then he pulls me in conversations with it. And I'm like, okay. And then I have uncles who also were crazy about it. My other grandparents, my other granddad, my grandma, and then my mom, and everybody is like always fixated on it. And so I just became fixated on it as well. And then when I got to middle school, I started playing basketball and I realized how much I really enjoyed just being around sports. I was not unrealistic to think that I was going to be a WNBA player at 5'6". I knew that was not happening for me. So I had to give up that dream. I was already doing the school announcements by elementary school. And so my mom was just kind of like, I think you should look into broadcasting. And I did some research on it, realized, you know what, I think I would enjoy this. And it just took off from there.
oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. So, was there a particular moment that kind of stood out to you that let you know, hey, I need to be covering sports?
Let's see. Maybe in college, I would say. I went to Troy University, got my bachelor's and master's from there. When we beat LSU, that was my junior year. Obviously, Troy is a mid-major school, but to be on that platform, the way that we were on every news channel, and then in basketball, we end up playing Duke in for March Madness. And I just realized that like the platform that my school had, and I was covering them as a college reporter, why can't I have that same platform? And so it was really that moment, I think, when we beat LSU that I just had to like think to myself, and I'm like, Troy is just a start. Like you can do this. If your school can get this far and can beat them, and we almost beat Clemson a year I was there. We beat Nebraska while I was there. And I just started seeing it and I was like, this team is on the highest platform. What's stopping you? And you go to the same school that these players do. What's stopping you from being on that platform as well? So I'll say that game sealed the deal for me. Like, this is what I need to do.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So, what were some of the early challenges that you faced trying to break through into sports journalism?
I don't want to sound cliche at all when I say it, but being a woman in a male dominated space is a little difficult. I know some people may just like say it to say it because now there are obviously way more women in the game and sideline reporters and even analysts. And when I was coming out of college, it wasn't as common quite yet. It was getting there. But that was a little bit challenging because I feel like you were always tested on if you knew something or not. And it's like, I hung out with more men growing up anyway, being around my uncles and my granddads and everything like that. So just naturally, that's who I would be around, and they would just sometimes poke, not my family, but just people when I got into my professional career, just poke at you and ask you these questions and kind of like shut you out a little bit if you don't know something. And I was like, yeah, that's a little tough because obviously it is different for men, especially if they play football. You're gonna know way more about it than we can. I didn't play, I had to study it. So sometimes that was a little bit challenging, just learning that, learning sports that weren't talked about as much in my house with male in those spaces. The reach, I think, was really hard. I love the state of Alabama, but we really don't have the resources because we're lacking, professional teams. I mean, we have the Birmingham Stallions now, but during that time, we didn't have a professional team. It wasn't as easy to just go and get maybe an internship with these people or any type of connection as far as local stations go. So that was a bit challenging for sure.
Okay. Awesome, awesome. I can definitely see that. Like you said, as a young female, trying to get into those doors would be definitely challenging.
Right.
So are there any people that mentored you or played a big role in kind of opening doors for you that you could think
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
that you could think of?
Absolutely. Starting back in college, I mentioned my dad like first, who was watching sports, and my granddad's. Major thing with them was just helping me understand information. I know that's family, so I mean, I can guess I can say they mentored me as well. But when I got to college, who I call my TV dad now, Aaron Taylor, was a major part in my growth and developing as a reporter. And I actually love him, and his wife Robin really just took me under their wing and just made me a little more polished. They educated me a little bit more and told me some things that really helped me, because no one in my family has been in journalism or had a broadcasting job at all. So I was definitely going in with no help at all, really, outside of doing those school announcements. When I got to my first professional job, or actually before that, my internship, I met Fred Davenport, who is well known around Birmingham for his social media and how he just kind of took over that whole thing in Birmingham. He began to mentor my career and just really help me. And then my first professional job, my sports director there, Carl Prather, played a major part as well in developing me as a reporter. And he actually is the reason I got my first job on air.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So, what kind of drives you or keeps you motivated to keep doing this type of work?
It's I feel like that's such a loaded question. It's a great question. And it's something that I write about a lot when I journal. It's the passion. I have tried, I literally tried and prayed, and I said, God, if you don't want this for me, you'll take the passion away, because it's so tough. It's tough when, local news doesn't really make the money that ESPN or Sports Center or all these people are making, and you're barely getting by, and you're like, I have these bills, but I want to do more, but I enjoy what I do, but like, is it really for me? I could do something else that maybe would pay a little more. And so I just had a long conversation like, God, if you don't want me to do this anymore, you're going to take that passion away. And when I tell you the passion increased, I
Mm.
was like, okay, so I really am supposed to do this. And I wake up every day, after I watch my news, I'm like, I'm watching Sports Center, I'm watching a podcast, I'm watching something, because the passion just won't die for me. And I realized, like, it's the Russell Westbrook mentality of the why not? Like, why not go after what you want? Or why can I go after what I want? Like, there's so many whys there. It's like, what's stopping me basically from going after what I want and going after the career that I dream of?
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad you shed light on that because a lot of people don't know. Just because they see you on TV, they don't understand. What all goes behind. Y'all everyday job, and they don't know what's going on.
At all.
Yeah. All right. So I know you cover a lot of different regions. So what makes Alabama high school sports special? What makes our sports special here in Alabama?
It goes back to the lack of resources for us. I think that's why, obviously, I'm from here. So, I mean, I grew up here. I know the talent that we have that people don't get to see. I know, nationally, they know about University of Alabama. I love that. I love what Nick Saban did for this state when it comes to football, and even Auburn. Auburn has obviously put us on the map as well. But it goes back to just the high school players here and the culture that we built, even in these smaller towns. When I covered towns in Huntsville that were maybe 75 people at a game, it's just a feeling that you have that is just so special, because you're like, we don't have the resources for these kids to be on ESPN top 10 like a Florida school, a California school would, just because of all the hype around them and all the support they have. You think about IMG Academy, even schools like that, like, they have the resources to get their stuff out so fast. We don't. So it makes Alabama special because we have to work harder. And that's even for journalists in this state as well. Just because we get to cover UA, it doesn't give us a gateway into, the best interviews or the sit downs. We have to work just as hard as anyone else coming to this stuff. And so I think just because of lack of resources, it means that we really have to grind just a little bit harder.
Yeah, yeah, I see that quite a bit. Hopefully, everybody else shining light can see that also.
Right.
So, which areas in Alabama? I know you're from Birmingham, but which areas in Alabama you think produce the most consistent talent year after year?
Oh goodness. The funny thing is now that I've lived in pretty much every region of the state, goodness. Because I started in Birmingham. I lived in Huntsville and now lived in Dothan area most recently. I would say it depends on the sport. I think basketball wise, Huntsville is
Okay.
out of this world talented. And it's
Wow.
not knocking anyone else. It's just that I don't know what it is up there. Maybe it's something with the cold weather. Like I don't know. They are just so talented in basketball. In football, I definitely think Birmingham has it. And I think this is all resources as well.
Mm,
And then in this area, the Wiregrass region, baseball and
okay.
softball, they are knocking it out the park literally down
Wow.
here. They're all talented. Obviously, you have a couple players on each team that plays a role into each sport, but
Mm,
just overall, I think that when you break it down by sports like that, but all together, I think we safely say Birmingham because it's the bigger city. And so
yeah.
they do have more reach, they do have more resources. But to me, it's broken down my sports for sure.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So in the last few years, have you noticed any trends in Alabama sports that maybe some of our viewers need to be aware of? Some of the things that's going on in Alabama sports.
I mean, obviously, we have this new thing with the reclassification with the AHSAA. That's the biggest thing that's being talked about. Even before then, the changes with transfers for high school students, the number is increasing like crazy. I didn't think I would see it as much here, just because our schools don't really well, we don't have the NIL, in Alabama quite yet. They're like, it's not on the scale I'll say as Georgia. There's a way that they can do it that is still legal and safe, but we don't have the resources and the platform for that as yet. So I didn't think that I would see these transfers. And but no, even covering the Wiregrass area, I start seeing, one kid leaves this school, he's playing for this school, and that was a little bit different. And I think that parents definitely need to be aware of making the best decisions, because I saw a kid transfer to a school and it did nothing for his career.
Mm,
Nothing. He could have stayed where he was.
yeah.
I hate it for him. I do understand that you're quick to say, you know what? I want my son to get a scholarship. So if I send him to this 7A school, that's what I'm expecting him to do. But remember, when you send them to this 7A school, is he even qualified to play at this
Mm,
7A school? So is he going to ride the bench and you just wasted a year, especially a senior year, because the
yeah.
student I'm referring to is a senior.
Mm,
Love him down, but it's literally like it was pointless for his career because he did not get to do anything. And so now it's even harder with recruiting. And so I encourage parents, and I've talked to some parents and said, hey, before you rip your kid out, weigh some options. Get them in some proper training over the summer. Get
mm,
them in some camps that maybe the schools can't even afford. Some of these schools just can't afford them. It's not like they don't want to go.
yeah.
But I'm hard on my cousin who's a basketball player at Ramsey in Birmingham now.
Oh,
And I'm like, listen, I don't care if I have to put the money up for you. I want you in AAU. I want
yep.
you in every camp there is, because you have to better your craft so that you can go to that coach and say, you got to play me because look at what I'm doing. But
Mm,
realistically, if you're not qualified to all these other kids on this 7A roster, they can't. I mean, they playing you is a loss for them. So you have to think about that. And so that's the biggest thing I want to say is just be mindful when you make those decisions for their career. Be smart when NIL does come your way. I just launched my business about media training and branding, and I'm preaching that to them. Be very smart. Don't just take a deal just because. Think about long term what it'll do for your career, even if you don't play sports after college. Have something to fall back on for sure.
yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome ideas. Hope everybody takes something from that. So we're looking at different coaches in the state. Do you notice any coaches making major impacts within the state right now?
You mean at the high school level, right?
Whoever, yeah.
It's a wide range. I think I can't point out a specific coach quite yet. Well, let me take that back, because doing some research, I saw Lee County is getting a lot of big name colleges to come visit their schools. So I can tell that they're whatever recruiting process they're doing. Dothan does a really good job of it as well,
Great.
pulling in some top coaches. But I will say that I'm noticing like coaches are just adjusting to all the changes at the same time. So it
Mhm.
is even harder for them. And now with this, reclassification, it may be even more difficult for them, or it may be easier. I'm going to wait to see how this first year goes, but I think everyone's adjusting to the changes and waiting to see if a player is going to stay on your roster next year. And so I think every coach I talk to is literally like, it's a sigh when you ask them, how's it going? It's like, they have to take that deep breath because they're like, man, they can't keep up sometimes. Like, I want this kid and I want to develop this kid, but if he doesn't get the playing time, he's going to leave. And then I have to compete with, another school who's maybe just 10 miles up the road because they have a spot for him to play right now or something like that. But I definitely give major shout out to Lee County and Dothan. I've seen them consistently bring in big names for their schools and they post about it. I absolutely love it.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome. So we're kind of looking at community support, school pride. How much does that play in success? I know you said financially that plays in success, but how much does that community pride and school pride play?
Man, it's major. And if I had the knowledge about what getting out in the community would have done for even when I was playing basketball back then, I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell me anything. Like I said, I knew I wasn't making a career out of it, but just having the resources, the networking, it teaches you so much business wise for these kids. How to, just create a conversation. My students now that I have, I'll talk to them and they're like, I don't want to go ask this person for an interview. I don't want to say anything. And I'm literally like, why? Just if I'm walking in the store, and I watch my dad do this a lot. If I'm walking in the store, he'll speak to anyone. Hey, how you doing? Hey, Howard. I mean, he's a pastor, so it's natural, but I watch him do that. And it's just that Southern hospitality that now I have to where if I'm walking past you and we're on the sidewalk together, I'll speak. And who knows, that one conversation of us standing in the line together at Publix may turn into you being my next employer or you being a client of mine under my, organization. And so just the way that these kids need to get out, go to some city hall meetings, go to little league games, go impact those kids because they're looking up to you. If your neighbor is hosting some event at a park in your city or your town, go to it. Literally just show your face, network, and have that support. So this person may not even like football and you're a football player, but just because you came and supported their event, they said, you know what, me and my whole family, we're gonna come watch you play today. Oh yeah, you're committed to this school, we want to buy your jerseys. Like it's just little minute stuff that people don't think about that becomes so big. So I'm so glad you mentioned that. I will preach that to all student athletes. Get involved in your community. It will change everything.
Most definitely, most definitely. And you can tell, I did coaching for a while and I noticed the community support. I mean, whether I was getting a big check or not, but when I got that community support and I saw the pride, it made me feel a whole lot better about coaching.
Yeah.
It did. So I know you mentioned a little bit about reclassification, and I know you pretty much have probably studied it a little bit. So it comes every 2 years. How do we explain the new things that's going on with reclassification right now for a lot of people that don't know what that means with this new thing that's going around? How do we explain that?
The best way to say it in simple terms, and it takes a lot of reading. I'll tell anyone, you definitely need to go to AHSA site and
Mhm.
just read it. But the best way that I can tell you what the major portion of this is that everyone is in an uproar about, private schools can no longer compete at a championship level against public schools. They have to compete against private schools when it comes to that, but they can play public schools during regular season.
Mhm.
That was something that confused me at first when the news was coming out. It was just so much going on, a lot of
Mhm.
people saying a lot of stuff, and I was like, you know what, let me get the gist of what this is. And so
Yeah.
they're basically saying like, hey, when you get to that championship ring, you have to play somebody that's exactly on your level. But
Mhm.
throughout the school, if you want to schedule, a 7A or whatever in your private school, you can. That's fair. They're fine with that. But it's just the championship situation has changed a little bit. I think this has been in talks for a while, but they were fighting it.
Mhm.
And I get both sides. I'll tell anyone I understand both. I get the frustration and I get the happiness for it. So some kids, the best way I thought about it when I was breaking it down is like, if you're in the Dothan area, you're a little bit familiar with Northside Methodist versus Houston Academy. Houston
Mhm.
Academy is a private school that has a little bit more resources. Okay, they can compete with you better athletically. They went toe to toe with Dothan what 4 years straight in a
Mhm.
basketball tournament. So they can stick with you. They can get there, and they may not have won any of those, but the fact that they get there, they can beat everyone else out, is because they have the opportunity to give some scholarships out for academics and get you on and develop you into a better athlete. Northside Methodist does not have that same luxury. So it's a smaller school. People really don't send their kids there for athletics. They really send them for the academics and the religion aspect. So when you factor that in, they don't want to get to the not national, excuse me, state championship and compete with someone, a public school that they know has all this money and all these resources and all these athletes and to blow them out the water. They don't want that. HA may want that because it challenges them and it challenges the system they have, because they can develop athletes a little more. But like I said, Northside Methodist, it's like we don't have the same luxury. We don't want that. We want our
Correct.
kids to just play a team that's kind of like them and call it a day. So that's just really the gist of it. And
Uh,
oh my gosh, you could probably write a book about what's about to happen, truly.
yeah. Awesome. 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 And there was a lot of surprises within that reclassification. Is there anything that stood out the most to you that you noticed? You was like, wow.
Not really, because again, I think it's been in talks. The new HSA executive director really came in and immediately did some things. And I don't, a lot of people in the Wiregrass would know, like, we saw a couple of schools in this area get hit with some fines.
Mm,
And some of these coaches came out and said, hey, I've been doing this. I've been operating like this. Why am I getting fined now? A couple suspensions were handed down for,
mm,
some bona fide moves maybe were not happening. So he came in so heavy on, I guess, what he would say, correcting some things, that when this whole reclassification came out and all the other changes with the AHSA, I was not shocked. I was like, this guy's not playing.
mm.
Heath is coming in and he says, you know what? This is the way I want the state to be ran. And I have the support. Clearly, he does. And so I guess he's just changing athletics as a whole for our state.
Awesome. 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 That's great information. So if we look at some of these schools, do you think any of them would benefit from this reclassification situation?
Well, like I mentioned, if you consider Northside, it's definitely a benefit for them that if they make it to these championship level or playoffs, having them compete with someone a little bit on their level is definitely beneficial for them, because there are some private schools that obviously, like I said, still can recruit in a way and give those scholarships out to develop athletes, but there are a lot of them that cannot. And so they can match a little more with um schools that are smaller than them and don't have the money as well. So for some of them, yes, 100%. I think I just think about them the most because one of my closest friends was coaching over there for a while, and I saw some of the challenges he experienced just with resources. It's like, you love this school, I want to help this school, I want to develop this school. I know they're coming here for academics, but let's also better the athletics. But he really couldn't. And that's just what it boiled down to, is like, if we can't recruit like these other schools and we can't just give out this money like these other schools, what can we do? So I think for them, this would be beneficial. And any other school in the state similar to them, this would be beneficial. Now, some other schools around here, they're happy as well, because it does bump up their competition as well. So let's just take away private schools. This new 4A Region 2 is insane. And when I look at the list, I'm like, wow, these were already talented schools, but now you put them all together. Those games I expect to be packed out. Like Ashford, I cannot wait to see how Ashford does when they're matched up with some of the teams. I know their Coach Stapleton just released their schedule recently, and I'm already like, man, I
Yeah.
want to be at least two or three of these games, because I know he's about to turn up the heat a little bit.
Wow, man, that's awesome. That is awesome. So we're looking at these rivalries, these well-known rivalries for years and years. I'm from an area we had a big, huge rivalry when I was in school. And so, do you think these reclassification may hurt some of these rivalries?
It may. I'll be honest. It may, and It's crazy because I haven't even thought about that, because once it's instilled in you, like, this is going to be the hottest game, like Dothan and Enterprise. Come on now, like, we know. I think for them it obviously won't, because they're both going from 7A to 6A, since 7A is eliminated with this. Um, I think that'll still obviously be a rivalry, and they're still like still the two largest schools in this area. So I don't think it'll change there, but I do think a few of them will change. It's before I even got to the Dothan area, there were rivalries I didn't even know about. And so they would tell me like these two used to be the hottest. Well, some of them now are back in the same region with each other because of the reclassification. So I think it may ignite old ones to come back. But
Mhm.
I'm with you. I think it may change them. I just don't know how yet. But we may have some new ones spin up as well. I'm really excited to see that side of like what will happen.
Yeah, yeah. I looked at some of those new brackets, and I think they had some of the private schools, and then I was interested to see some of those private schools, go up against each
Oh
other.
yeah. Yeah.
'Cause they were in different regions and different areas, so that's very interesting.
Right.
Um, so one more thing I'm gonna ask you about that reclassification. Uh, so when we look at competitive balance, and that's kind of out the window, how does that, how should fans um, understand about, since competitive balance is out the window, and now you have the Choose Act, which probably doesn't play effect anymore.
Hmm.
Um, how would that kind of confront things, dealing with the Choose Act and people being able to get funding and go to another school without it being a financial burden?
This goes back to, as I was mentioning, like when before parents just up and pull their kids out of a school and move them, you really have to weigh every option now. But I want them to also realize no matter what the situation is, your child just needs the support. It doesn't matter if they're at a 1A school. Because I think about Elba. When Alvin Henderson left, the talk about Elba dropped a little bit just because, hey, we don't have him here and we don't have Caden here. And, like our star athletes are kind of leaving. What do we do now? What do we look to now? That school still needs support. It doesn't matter who goes there. Alvin probably had the opportunity to go to another school. Enterprise is not that far. He could
Mm-hmm.
have easily moved over and came right on this roster with all these other, 4-star, 5-star athletes, and he chose to stay at a 1A school and still made it on an SEC roster. So I think that needs to be considered is that, like you said, you have the opportunity to do what you want really with your kid now. This was not the same luxury when I was in high school or people before me, but
Mm-hmm.
before you do it, weigh the option. Remember the platform you can have by staying at the school you're at, getting the community involved, as I mentioned, getting the right support behind them, and then putting them on the highest level. What I'm fearful of and what I have been when I start seeing it happen is like we make these super teams in this area and everybody's on one roster, and then there is no competitive balance. Like you said, it goes out the window because if you have all the top players, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, how can my child even compete with you? And it's not, nobody wants to watch a game we know is going to be a blowout. Like, I'm not going to come to that game if I know they're going to get killed. When you have that
Yeah,
mentality, it's like you want to see a game.
yeah.
So I think that parents just have to consider that with all the noise that's going around, with all these changes, be very mindful where you put your child, please.
Oh, that's great advice. Great advice. I know you covered so many players all these years. Who are some local athletes this year we probably need to keep an eye on?
Oh man, I love this because I love to give my kids all the shine. Diggy Coleman is the first name that I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Man, I absolutely love him and his family. I am so proud of him. I already told him like I'm probably gonna cry when he graduates. I've covered him since I came to this area, and just the explosiveness he has as a basketball player, the way he's been a leader since he was a freshman and sophomore, the way he demands like your attention on the court, your respect, and then he's just sweet outside of that. Like he's just a really respectful. He has great manners. I'm just absolutely glad that I know him. And I make jokes with him when I go to the game now because I'm like, man, like I need your autograph now. He's amazing to watch. Ahmad Billings is another. Ahmad has a story that I think needs to be told on every platform possible. He's from Abbeville. He was true to Abbeville. And at some point, he had to make a very tough decision to say, my last year, I want to graduate with my friends, but I need to go somewhere that maybe I have a little more room to grow. And so he decides to go from Abbeville to Abbeville Christian, wins a state championship with them. And, so I think he was just another kid that has just been so amazing to watch develop. It's been absolutely amazing. The entire Carroll girls basketball team right now should have everyone's attention. How
Yeah.
dominant they are. Their coach. amazing to watch. I don't know how she coaches in her 6-inch heels. I'm still amazed by that. But the way I get to see her move and dominate with these players and really just bring Carol basketball to where it needs to be has been amazing. That's why I said the whole team, because all of them, they haven't, some of them weren't here when I got here, but
Yeah.
the entire team. But Ahmad and Diggy are two amazing kids that I just have been really close in their upbringing part. So I can definitely speak to their, some of my other kids are gone. Kaden Mitchell is gone. Like a lot of those, Eric Winters, all the kids at Enterprise that I had, Andrew Purcell, they're all in college now. But just this year, I think everyone needs to pay attention to where Diggy is going. Ahmad is already committed to Missouri, but we need to be like popcorn close to the TV to find out where the heck Diggy is going. I'm hoping he
Yeah.
goes to Troy and he
Okay.
links back up with Thomas Dowd,
Yeah.
because obviously I went there, but to see their chemistry again would be
Yeah.
amazing. So
Yeah.
fingers crossed that he goes to Troy, but we need to be seeing where he's headed next for sure.
Oh man, that's amazing. Those are two great players that you talked about, and multiple other guys I know that are going to do great, amazing things. So when you start to look at some of these local programs, I know you mentioned a few local programs. Um, so which one of those programs are trending up right now?
You mean like just the schools?
Yeah, yeah, just the schools.
Mm. Maybe, and this is a school I didn't mention actually. Providence Christian is trending a lot right now, and I love that for them because they obviously won a state championship last season as well, last basketball season. Have the potential to win another. I think that people are not so focused on going to a school for religion now, realizing that those schools are just as beneficial as a public school. And you're all, if you are Christian, your child is also getting, that word every day, the scripture every day, the prayer time every day as well. So there's double for that. It's a woman that goes to my church now. She talked about how Providence Christian has done so much for her son, and he's younger. But still, I'm realizing now that people are starting to be put on that, hey, some of these private schools that we've, shied away from going to, I understand the tuition aspect as well. If you don't have the funds to do it, there's, maybe some avenues that you can check. Like we mentioned the Choose Act. There are some things that you may have to get involved with to get your kid in there. But I will say, I'm watching Providence get the respect that they deserve. They're getting the attention that they deserve, really to be an elite program, not just academically, but athletically as well.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Amazing school. I've heard a lot about them.
Yeah.
Just looking at, if you had to pick one local rivalry that delivers every time, which one would it be?
Oh my goodness. It's really two, because
Two?
I feel like it's unfair to say Dothan and Enterprise
Yeah.
because they were like the only two 7A schools. So you knew that game was going to be packed. I mean, people who didn't even go to, Dothan and Enterprise, if they didn't have a game, if their school didn't have a game or they weren't playing, they're coming to that game.
Yeah.
So I think that was unmatched, and it's just because of size. Like, let's just be real. But Houston Academy and Providence is another great rivalry to watch.
Yeah.
A lot, like I mentioned, a lot of the big name guys outside of like Pierce is still right now at Providence, but some of them have graduated, so they're
Hmm.
developing some of the kids up under them now.
Hmm.
So it may be like different because they're still finding their way, but it's another good rivalry game to watch. Headland and Abbeville was always a good one. I won't say it's the same with football. Basketball, it is really good though. Softball, baseball, those are always really good if they get to play them because they're not even in the same region classification at all. But just because they're the only two schools in Henry County, it's normally a good one to watch. But I gotta say Dothan and Enterprise. It's just the one that me and my girls, we get dressed to
Yeah.
go to that one. We know we're
Okay.
gonna have a good time.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So I'm gonna kind of go into, just looking at Alabama high school sports over the next 5 years. We don't quite have NIL just yet.
Mhm.
What do you kind of see in the future of Alabama high school sports?
I think NIL, Alabama, let's just say this. Alabama is always a little bit late to everything. We still don't have a lottery, and I'm waiting every
Yeah.
day. I'm waiting every day. We're late to everything. And I think it comes from a matter of protection as well, that our state just wants to do everything perfectly sometimes, and so that is why we don't, like, dip our foot in something that may damage us than do more good. So that's a political front for us. But when you think about athletes, I think NIL is the same way. People genuinely just don't know what it is yet, and it's been out for a couple years, but there are parents who still, that I talk to now, are just like, I don't even understand where to start. What do I get my son involved with? What do I not get my son involved with? There's just so much knowledge that you really have to gain from all of this. And you think about, like I mentioned, Georgia, it was front line on it because there are so many resources there. There's so many schools there. There's, so many professional teams there where they have people who can come in and sit these kids down and tell them, here's what you need to know. Here's what I did. They can go and be at a camp and see a professional player just right there and go up to them and ask them how to do this. Alabama doesn't have the same luxury, for real, for real.
Hmm.
Thankfully, we have the Birmingham Stallions, and, AJ McCarron is going to be the head coach this year. His career at Alabama, I'm sure he can speak to it, but NIL was not around when he was in college. So it's
Hmm.
all different. It's all a learning thing. But I would say, and I'm saying this carefully, I would
Hmm.
hope in the next 5 years we have adopted it, just because I do believe that children should profit off of, their jersey sales or all of this. I do believe that they should make money off of, people coming to a game just to see them. Now, I'm not saying that that limits what the school is making at all. No, I don't. I don't believe that. I want every school here to be successful, but I do think that if you're resharing and reposting this kids highlights all over your social media, and it goes viral from your posts, I think we need to find a way that they be paid for it. So I just think, um in the next 5 years, maybe. Now, what I am is a supporter of it being monitored. I think Nick Saban said this. I do believe that, this sounds so crazy because it's like, you don't want to stop a kid's money, but you do see the negative thing that comes with it when you have too much money and don't know how to manage it. In
Hmm.
these places with low poverty, sometimes we could get so excited about getting money, we blow it on the wrong things and we have nothing to fall back on. So
Hmm.
that's why I say, if it can come with something that is being managed and monitored for these kids to where they're not in debt before they even graduate college, I'm all for NIL, truly. So I'm hoping in the next 5 years that we can have it. I think it will gradually happen. I just think Alabama is just always late to, anything.
Yeah, that is so true. So if you see some of these student athletes, do you like to see any kind of changes personally in some of the student athletes that you see? Are there any changes that you would like to see?
100%. I'm so glad you asked this because it's a moment to plug my business as well.
Yeah.
The Brief that launched January 1st, 2026,
Oh,
is specifically designed for media training and brand development. I need these babies to stop putting their entire life on social media.
yeah.
Okay. I was a victim of it as well because my generation grew up with social media. So
Okay.
when I'm talking to my kids now and I talk about Bebo and MySpace, they have no idea what any of that is. Well,
Yeah.
I grew up with that. And so we treated it like diaries, but we didn't understand what screenshot would be later on in life, and
Hmm.
how people can remember or took a picture of something you posted and they have it forever. We did not know that. My dad did not know that when he allowed me to have one. My mom didn't know that. Like, I think I got social media before my mom did. Like, she didn't even understand what was going on until later on in life. And so I really think that, now this platform that I've created is just for me learning my own stuff and saying, you know what, I want to pull these kids in and mentor them and really say, hey, let's stop. Let's rewind a little bit. Let's think before we post this. And I
Yeah.
mean anywhere. Because what we also done is, you have your close friends on Instagram and you're like, I'm gonna put in my close friends. Absolutely not. There are people around you sometimes that you don't even realize are out to make you look crazy. And they're out to gain off of your NIL, your name, whatever you have attached to it. If I can expose that this person was in my DMs, I'm gonna do it. I saw it happen to Zion Williamson when he
Hmm.
first got into the league, really, or before he left Duke.
Yeah.
Everybody screenshotting that he tried to hit them up when realistically he's just being a teenage boy. That's what they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But you have to be mindful what you're gonna share with the world. And so now that is the biggest thing I'm seeing. I really want kids to consider what a brand is. I
Yeah.
want them to, talk to someone. And I mean, I'm offering my services anyway. Like, come talk to me, Schedule a session with me. Let me really tell you how important it is to secure your brand because it follows you not just for college, not just for high school, literally for the rest of your life. Someone would always attach a post that you made in 2016 with you in 2030. So just be mindful of that. That is what I'm seeing now that does concern me. It's like, dang, they're sharing everything and people just screenshotting it. And then they're waiting for you to blow up to be like, look what this person said to me.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Now, I know that you mentioned your business. How do anybody get in touch with you with your business if they want to enroll their child in your services or they want to get in touch with you? How do they do that?
Just through social media. If you message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, so Facebook is obviously just Briana Jones. My Instagram is Briana JTV. If you just message me, I literally just go through my calendar, see what days match up with you. I have not created a booking site yet because I have this goal of like when I get this amount of clients, then I'm gonna create a booking site. Because people have asked me like, where do we book? What do we do? And I'm like, it's all strategic, y'all. That's in my mind. Is like, you cross out something with your business when you become an entrepreneur. Like, okay, I got this. Now I have 5 clients. Now I can make this. And so all you have to do is just message me. I'll see what days and we can do it in person or on Zoom. I would love to do in person too to really like pull up your social media on a laptop and say, hey, let's delete this post. Like
Yeah.
get it down now.
Awesome.
So either one is perfect. And I have my Instagram as well. I forgot about that was my personal Instagram or my professional Instagram. The Bree Brief has its on Instagram as well. So just BRI Brief. It's like my yellow logo you'll see there. It's also on the Brianna JTV page tag. So you could any profile that you have in mind, if you message me on them, I will get you scheduled.
Okay. Hey, that's awesome. Awesome. So I know you talked about your business. What do you kind of foresee next in your career? Anything big you got coming up? I know you talk about your business, but I know there's probably some other things too that you like to mention.
Listen, this is the leap of faith year for me. I have no idea what God is going to do in my life. I can't even tell you because I don't know. I
Yeah.
know what I want to do, I know where I want to be. But if it's going to happen, it's something that I'm trusting Him with. Things have changed for local news, things have changed for sports reporters in general. Everything is changing in the TV business because people don't just cut their TV on and say, hey, I want to watch local news, unless you're a little bit older or you're watching for a specific purpose. So if you're watching for Friday Night Football, that's obviously different. But if you're not just going to watch every day, the viewership is going down in that. So I had to reconsider some things of like, where do I want to be? And that's just something I've been writing and talking to God about constantly is like, this is where I see my life going in the next couple years. So it's a leap of faith year. I literally, I can't even, I have no answer to it because I genuinely do not have anything planned right now other than trusting what He's going to do. I've had some opportunities to work. I worked the bowl game over the break and it was really fun. The Birmingham Bowl, I had a blast. And so I'm leaving it open to say, hey, whatever happens, happens right now.
Awesome. Awesome. That's a great answer. So what kind of message would you like to leave with athletes, coaches, and fans in the state of Alabama? What kind of message would you like to leave?
We need so much unity right now with the constant changes that we've talked about today, with changes that I expect to come in the future. We need to be unified. And I want everyone to consider that we are not doing this for us. We do this for the next generation, the generation after that. This is all about these kids. I spent like my whole business is specifically for high school athletes because in colleges is a little different. Like obviously I would open it up to mentor if you just, really needed it, but
Mhm.
they do have protection more from media by the time they get to college because you have an SID who can kind of come in and say, you know what, nope, they're not going to do interviews unless we approve it. High school doesn't have that. They kind of just can do whatever. They have more leeway because it's obviously harder to manage. And so I think about everything that I post, everything that I do, what student athlete can I connect with? Can I reach? Can I mentor? And when I consider that, my whole mindset changes. And so for coaches, I know we want to be hard on them. We want to develop them. I highly recommend you doing that. But just remember that every little thing you've done is impacting their life. You don't always know their home life. You don't always know their home situation. Even the kids that look like they got it all going on are sometimes suffering the most. So just have that grace, stay unified with them, really build relationships with them, talk to them, figure out what's going on. For parents, same thing. Talk to your kids. You've heard people say this, and I don't even have children yet, but I mentor a lot of kids, and
Yeah.
I just know like sometimes just talking to them, getting them to open up, you're literally like you sit back and go, wow, like I'm complaining about something I'm going through, and I have no idea the life that this kid is living or what they're going through, them having to work. A lot of kids now have to work in high school just because their parents don't have the money, so they don't get to go to the training camps and do these other things and go to even just hangouts with their friends. And so I'm preaching to every person, unify yourself, like literally unify yourself in a group, get unity in your mind, that we need it so bad right now if we really want to help the next generation be successful and impactful to everyone else behind them.
Awesome, awesome. I'm so glad to have you today on my show. You brought some great advice, and I just want to make sure that anybody that want to get in touch with you can get in touch with you. Social media. Is there anything else that you like to add before I close out?
No, I just have to thank you so much for bringing me on. I do not take podcasts lightly at all. I think if you want to hear me yap, because I could talk for hours,
Yeah,
then you must be a great person. So thank you so much for having me.
no problem, no problem. Thank you. So I'm right here with Miss Briana Jones. I appreciate her on my show, and next time for everybody. Thank you guys.